In this video, we'll look at the stages I went through to paint in watercolour this realistic chaffinch bird. Hi, I'm Anna Mason. Welcome to Nature Studio TV, here to help you become the artist you want to be. This chaffinch bird has loads of feathery details and a beautiful shiny eye, and it's available as a long format video class in Nature Studio, my online art school and community. Here's a quick overview. Starting with a detailed outline drawing that accurately matches the reference photo I'm painting from, I begin by working with my limited palette of 6 watercolour paints to map out all the colour areas in the painting. Notice how I'm painting in little lines, following the direction of the feathers. Once this base layer is dry, more layers of paint will be added over the top, but these short little marks will add up to the overall appearance of fluffy feathers. Having mapped out the palest yellows, oranges, reddy browns and greys, I move on to the beak, where I'm taking care to leave a thin line of the white paper colour along the join. I apply the paint more evenly here to create the impression of a smooth surface. As I apply the watery version of a black colour to the feathers, you can see how I'm leaving little gaps between the brush strokes. These lighter gaps help to create extra depth and texture. I map out all the remaining colour areas, then allow the painting to fully dry. Next, I paint the eye to completion, which I always like to do early on in any bird or animal painting. I'm using the tip of my smallest brush here and resting my hand on the paper to keep it steady. This would be easier to do if I was working larger, but my goal here is to replicate the shapes of colour and achieve plenty of definition whilst taking care to preserve the pale highlights. I then work into the darkest tones in other areas of the composition, always paying attention to the direction of the feathers, avoiding lighter areas and leaving gaps to the paler layer beneath. Watercolour dries lighter than it looks when it's wet, so here I'm applying a second layer of paint to any dried areas that needed to be taken darker. At this stage, the painting's looking very disjointed, but stick with me. Once the painting is fully dry, it's time to introduce the midtones, and this is where it starts to look more unified. I mix an orangey brown, and again I'm working in little lines, following the direction of the feathers. I keep building up tone and texture with lots of these short marks, adjusting my paint mix for each colour area, and always making sure the layer I'm painting over is completely dry. With a grey colour, I gently apply a watery layer as a glaze on the cap area to overall darken it a touch. Then I work with this colour into the wing, and with a little more blue added, I paint the beak. Observe how I'm leaving lighter patches. This process is all about looking for the smallest shapes of colour we can see in the subject. Using a brown mix, I continue painting the body area, which is now dried, still keeping my hand steady and painting in lots of little lines. I use this brown colour in the face, and then I use a watery grey glaze to add some shadow to the chest area to create more 3D form. I'm using a light touch here as I don't want this wash to lift the paint beneath or smooth the texture I've been building up. I can see I now need to create more glow in some of the brown areas, so I add in some orange to brighten the hue. I continue building up the midtones colour by colour, looking back and forth between my painting and the reference photo. When the bird is looking more solid, I now work on the legs and branch using my smallest brush. I paint the legs, leaving gaps where the paler blossom overlaps in the foreground. For the feet, I use a grey-brown, picking out the small details I can see. Then I work my way around the blossoms and the branch, darkening and adding details wherever I see them. I come back to the painting with fresh eyes after a tea break and set about the final stage of the painting, which is to assess the composition as a whole and look for any areas that need to be darkened. I start with the darkest tones because tone is relative, and this will help me see any midtones that aren't dark enough. The fourth step is such a meditative part of the process, and it's where the realism happens. I'm just looking back and forth between the reference and my painting, adding brushstrokes and details, but also regularly stepping back to view the entire picture. Once I stop seeing differences between my work and the photo, I know it's time to put down my brushes and call the painting finished. A full-length step-by-step video class of this chaffinch, which comes with an outline drawing you can trace, a reference photo and a list of paints, is available now with Nature Studio membership. If you've enjoyed this mini class, please subscribe to Nature Studio TV, then pop over to naturestudio.com where you can sign up for a free class and find a whole heap of free resources to help you capture the beauty of nature on your paper. Thanks for watching, and if you want to find out more about my art school, Nature Studio, and the free class that's waiting for you there, keep watching. Have you taken my free full-length watercolour class yet? If not, you're in for a treat. In it, I guide you step by step through painting a juicy, realistic pear that'll make you think, wow, I did that. You'll learn a repeatable, reliable watercolour method that you can go on to use for painting all kinds of other subjects. I'm confident you'll discover something that I already know, that you're a better artist than you think. I teach everything about my watercolour method in this full-length class, and I'm sharing it with you for free because I want to show you what you can achieve with the right instruction. If it ignites a spark in you, just as it has for thousands of others who've taken this class, there are hundreds more detailed tutorials you can unlock if you choose to become a Nature Studio member. So get the free class now and get ready to wow yourself with your results.